Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, the incredible Michael Meyers.
Hey, you guys showed up. That's good. I'm glad you guys came because this is my favorite thing to do, comedy. Comedy is my favorite thing to do, but I don't know if you guys know this. Comedy is hard. You know? Like a lot of times, especially when you're first starting out, you bomb. Which means you do really bad and everybody hates you. You know? And when I was first starting out, if I was bombing, what I would do is lash out at the audience. Which is dumb because they already hated me, you know, and now they hate me even more. But you guys are lucky. If this goes poorly, I will not do that. But what I will do is employ my photographic memory. And I'll take a vivid and detailed mental picture of everybody who hated me tonight. And I'll politely finish my set, I'll go home, and I'll sit down at my desk. And at my desk is a big magnifying glass. And next to that magnifying glass are all these little blocks of wood. And I'll take one of those little blocks of wood, bring it under the magnifying glass, and begin to whittle. And I'll start to perfectly recreate the faces of everybody who hated me tonight. But where there were once frowns and scowls, I'll replace those with smiles. And maybe even looks of uncontrollable laughter. And when it's perfect, I'll take that little block of wood and I'll move it to my miniature amphitheater. Which is populated by thousands of blocks of wood. And there'll be a light like that light illuminating a stage. And on the stage is a perfect recreation of me doing stand-up comedy. So you see, everyone who once hated me so much in real life is now forever entombed in wood. Loving my comedy. So over the next 45 minutes or so, when I reach a punchline and you're deciding whether or not to laugh, you can ask yourself this question. Do I want to be a real person? Or do I want to become one of Michael's tiny wooden figurines? And I gotta tell you, judging by a couple of your reactions, it's gonna be a busy fucking night. All right, this is gonna be a very busy night. I was driving the other day, and I passed a car that had its lights off. And I did what I normally do. I flashed my brights at them, you know. And my friend I was driving with goes, "I wouldn't do that if I were you." And I go, "Why?" And she goes, "Well, I hear when gangs want to initiate new members, they'll drive around, wait for someone to do what you just did, and then they'll murder that person." And I was like, that's probably not true. In fact, I bet it's the opposite. You know, I'm driving around, see a car with its lights off, I flash my brights. In the rear view, I just see this car do a U-turn. And they speed around me and cut me off. And a bunch of guys hop out. And I'm just like, what appears to be the problem here, fellas? Well, we have a ton of drugs and guns in our car, and you just prevented us from getting pulled over for something stupid. You want to be a part of the gang? What do you say? I think there's only one thing to say, gentlemen. Viva la Latin Kings. Yeah, that's right, everybody. I'm a member of the Latin Kings. I don't do any of the murder or the drug running. I just drive around and make sure my Latin King brothers have their lights on when they're basically the IT department of the Latin Kings. But are you guys drinking? Wow. I'm drinking too. You're enthusiastic. I don't have enthusiasm for drinking anymore. I think it's because I have a drinking problem. You know? The problem is I can't seem to get enough of the stuff. You know? And that's not good because I do dumb shit when I drink. Like one time I drank a bunch and I found out that dog Xanax is the same as people Xanax. And I found this out because I got real drunk and took a lot of my dog Xanax. And I blacked out and peed on my laundry. But I did sleep through the fireworks that night, so that was pretty good. I also do one thing when I drink a lot that's bad. It's called buying cocaine. Cocaine is by far the worst drug that I've done hundreds of times. Like, cocaine is the one drug that will make you hate the sound of birds. You're just like, what the hell are they doing now? Oh, it's tomorrow. All right, that's great. You know, but I don't think cocaine is like a fun drug. Like, you know, acid and mushrooms, that's fun, you know? I mean, it can be fun. It can be terrifying, too. But you know, you can get a new perspective out of that. You're never going to get that with cocaine. If you described a night of cocaine to somebody, you'd be like, yeah, me and my buddies put down about $200, and then for 8 hours we talked over each other. And it's scary to do cocaine now because you can get fentanyl in it, which is scary, and it's a really powerful opioid. And they're cutting cocaine with it. You don't know what's in there. You do it, you're dead. Bummer, you know? It's a bummer. I will say this, though, about fentanyl and cocaine. It's made me more of a gentleman. Because now if I ever do it, my policy is always... ladies first. Yeah. Who said chivalry's dead? Oh, her name was Chivalry. All right. But I gotta cut back on my drink. I've been doing weird shit to cut back on my drink because nothing really works, you know. So I've been doing this one thing. Now before I go out for a big night of drinking, before I leave my apartment, I'll dress my dog up in a Little League outfit. Yeah. And then if I have too much to drink, I come home and act like he's my disappointed son. And I just missed his big game, you know? And he's this real cute little beagle named Carl, so, you know, he looks real cute in his Little League outfit. And I actually wrote that joke about 3 years ago, and he's dead now, so now just a bag of bones in a Little League outfit. Boy, is that haunting. I think it's making me drink more, actually, to be honest with you. But, you know, I'm single. I don't go on many dates. But I will say this. A few months ago, I set up 2 dates with 2 beautiful women. Yeah. I don't have a joke about that. I just want to get off my chest. But, No, but that's unusual. But what happened was, if anything came from the first one, it would have been bad because it started on a lie. And the lie was, she said to me, Michael, I'm really into astrology. And I said, I don't know much about it, but I am open to it. Which is the lie, you know. The idea that the stars determine your personality is pretty fucking stupid, and I am totally closed off to that idea, you know? So if anything would have come from it, it all started on that lie. But then I met another girl, and you guys may know this about me, I don't know if you do, but I used to run a moderately successful bingo night. And on this particular bingo night, I was on fire, all right? I was calling bingo like you never seen. I was calling bingo so well that it caused a woman who was previously not sexually attracted to me to become sexually attracted. That's how good the bingo was, you know? And afterwards, she asked if we could go out sometime, and I agreed. But I said, why don't you just sit down right now and we'll talk. And so we were talking, and she asked me where I lived in the city, and I told her, and she goes, oh, I hear the Poles are setting a lot of fires in your neighborhood to prevent gentrification. And I looked at her and I go, the Polish? And she goes, yeah. And in that moment, this wave of relief washed over me because I was like, God damn, finally somebody I can speak the truth with. And look, gang, I wrote that joke about a year ago, and her and I were engaged now, everybody. We're engaged. I wrote that part of the joke about 3 years ago, and she's dead now. So now just a bag of bones and a wedding dress. And boy, is that arousing. I used to be a teacher. Yeah. All right. I mean, I'm not anymore. Are there any teachers here?
Yeah.
One? How long have you taught?
4 years.
Okay, still time to change your course. So, but I was a teacher for 4 years in a severe behavior classroom, and whenever I tell that to people, they're like, "Wow, that must take a lot of patience," you know. And it's true, it requires a lot of patience to do that job, but there'd be moments that make it all worth it. Like I had a girl in my class who had a learning disability. She was highly aggressive, and she would run away. And the things that would trigger those behaviors were things like math. Which was really unfortunate for me, her math teacher. So every day I dealt with that shit, you know. But then one day I looked at her and I go, you know how to do this? If 8x equals 24, what does x equal? And that moment I saw this light bulb go off outside of her head, and I was like, oh my God, this is the moment that made all of this worth it, you know? And with the most confidence she could conjure, she said, well, Mr. Meyers, if 8x equals 24, x equals, why don't you go fuck yourself? And being her teacher, I couldn't really say what I wanted, so I was just like, I think you're going to have to check your math on. And then she spit in my face. And it was that moment I realized that every child's a blessing. You know, they're all individual blessings. But in that class, I had a lot of kids that were on the autism spectrum, and, you know, autism's a really misunderstood and stereotyped thing. They're individuals like you and I. They just happen to have that disability. But I will say this about people on the spectrum I taught. A lot of them were unusual. Like, I had about 8 kids in my class. They'd sit in a semicircle around me, and I'd wheel up to them in a chair to help them with their work. And on one day, I was wearing some jeans that had a little more denim than normal. You know? It was laundry day. So they bunched up in the crotch. You know? And I wheeled up to help one of the kids with his work, and without trying to make me feel bad, just very matter of fact, he looked at me and said, Mr. Meyers, your balls look huge today. And this was halfway through the school year, so he'd been taking stock. You know, it was like first day baseline balls. You know, every day after that, pretty normal balls on Mr. Meyers. Nothing unusual about those balls. A little bigger than normal, but nothing that would warrant a comment. And then on that day, he was just like, holy shit. I gotta say something about those balls. But before I had that job, I was a substitute teacher. And I won't ask if anybody subbed. You've had a sub, you've made a grown man cry. But the thing about subbing is you teach every grade. And I found the hardest grade to teach was 3rd and below. And that's because you have to act like the world hasn't beat you down yet. Like some kid comes up to you eagerly clutching a piece of paper, you gotta be like, oh my God, Dylan, what do you have? Whoa, to Mr. Meyers. Well, it's a drawing of a triangle. That is spectacular, Dylan. I think you may have a future as an artist. Can't do the opposite, be like, hey, what's up? Oh, you got something. Wow. To Mr. Meyers. It's a drawing of a triangle. That's not bad, Dylan. But you know, Dylan, with the rise in the cost of living, in today's shrinking job market, you might want to find some other skills than triangle drawing. Also, I noticed you like Marissa over there, and I think she likes you, you know? It's probably the triangles you draw, how they make her feel. But if you notice your buddy Ryan over there, he draws squares. And eventually those triangles that once made her feel so good, as if there was no one else in the world for her but you and your triangles, will no longer be enough. And she'll want someone like Ryan who draws squares. Look, Dylan, what I'm trying to tell you is that I'm broke and my ex-girlfriend fucks my friends. But hey, why don't you get out on that playground, buddy, because these truly are the best years of your life. They really are the best years of your life. Oh, boy. Is anybody Catholic? Okay, now, okay, everybody clapped. Now, clap if you're still practicing. There you go. It's always a response. I grew up really Catholic, and being Catholic, if you don't know, it's all about guilt. You know, everything you do is a sin. Human nature is a sin, original sin. So all your thoughts, everything you're going to do, you're going to go to hell for, you know? So you got to confess. And that's a good thing to download into a youngster's brain. So I grew up real Catholic, and I don't mean to be crass, but just to illuminate that point, the first time that I masturbated, I felt such shame and guilt, and I thought I was going to go to hell for it. So I put my hand on a Bible and swore I would never do it again. And wouldn't you know, I did it again. So once again, I put my hand back on a Bible, and it started this weird cycle of me masturbating, putting my hand on a Bible. And I feel like if God was looking down on me, he'd be like, look, Michael, I'll forgive you for that. Just take that hand off my book, all right? But it's crazy because last summer, the head priest at the church I grew up going to was arrested. Yeah. But it's not for what you think. And of course, I'm just kidding. It's for exactly what you think, everybody. What do you think it was? Oh, I know. He fucked his hand, yeah. Imagine if his hand was a little kid. You know, that's what it was. And isn't that crazy? I said a priest was arrested, and everybody here jumped to that conclusion. You know? I didn't say what for. Everybody jumps to that conclusion. There is no other job where you would make that jump. Yeah. And this guy's whole purpose is to guide you to eternal salvation through morality. And everybody here heard a priest got arrested and thought, well, he must have been fucking a kid. I mean, look, there's no ifs, ands, or little buts about it. This guy must have been having... Are you guys on the internet? Man, that's a bad thing we did. The internet, that's probably the worst thing we did to each other, I think. Every morning, my phone is my alarm, and it's attached to the internet. And every morning, I wake up, and for 15 minutes, I scroll through everything I hate. And then I just go, well, time to go to work. So naturally, I pay $100 a month for that service, and but beyond the fact that it's like melted our brains, and you know, nobody gets the same information. There's certain things I was thinking about, like phrases that were really good phrases that you don't need anymore. Like, you remember the phrase "blast from the past"? Real blast from the past, huh? Great phrase. You don't need, it used to be you ran into somebody, and they'd be like, hey, I ran into Suzanne the other day. Suzanne? My old flame? Well, that's a real blast from the past. What's she up to? Wow, 2 kids and married. That's great. You know, I always felt like she was the one that got away. You know. Now you're into something like, hey, I ran into your old flame, Suzanne. You want to know what she's up to? No need, my friend. Since the breakup, I've been keeping daily tabs on her. And it would appear that she's in a new relationship with this guy named Rick. And that's good for her because Rick just got promoted at his new job. So, look, gang, what I'm trying to tell you is that in this digital age of lost love, none of us will ever move on or be happy again. I don't think that's just a stark reality, not a punchline. But one thing that the internet is where everybody goes to announce things, you know, good or bad, they announce them on there. And one thing I've found is that when people get cancer, they always announce it on social media. And it's always kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, I got bad news, I have cancer, but I'm not going to let this bring me down. I'm a fighter, and I'm going to kick cancer's ass. Which I think is great. That's really motivational. That's awesome. But if that was me, I'd be like, hey, I got some bad news. Doc said I have cancer, stage 2. very treatable. But if I know me, I'm going down, all right? I've never been in a fight in my life. And I sure as hell don't intend to start right now. So. Goodbye, cruel world. You know? But I guess one good thing about the internet is you can get all the music you want. That makes it all worth it, everybody. I had Spotify for a while, and I had free Spotify. So you have to listen to ads when you have free Spotify. And at the time that I had it, there was a commercial running on TV and on Spotify. And I saw it so many times. It was for the Subway Italian Hero. And if you guys haven't seen or remember this commercial, don't worry, I'm going to tell you about it right now. So, picture, if you will, a big city, an Italian neighborhood. A young man rushes home eagerly to unwrap his sub. He sits down on a stoop, and his friend walks up and goes, "Hey, what you got there, Frankie?" He goes, "Oh, this? This is the new Italian Hero from Subway." And at this point, a very familiar voice comes from the back. And you know it's familiar because they're not startled when a woman screams, "A lot of meat on that sub." And he goes, "Well, yeah, Mrs. G, it's got mortadella, Genoa salami, spicy capicola." And now picture, if you will, an old man sweeping the sidewalk. And his ears perk up. And he goes, "Spicy capicola?" He goes, "Well, yeah, Mr. Antonelli." And at this point, you know one thing about Mr. Antonelli. He is a very excitable man. Because he heard a fairly common deli meat and lost his mind. Spicy capicola. So then the commercial goes on and it ends with a mob-like figure sitting down. And he goes, "You did good, Frankie." He goes, "Thanks, Saul." And then he goes, "Subway, a better sandwich for a better Subway." Which I just assume is Subway's way of saying, you guys know we don't have a pedophile for a spokesman anymore, right? No one is fucking kids at Subway anymore. We do still, however, traffic in heavy Italian stereotypes. So, I told that joke in Indianapolis a few weeks ago, and that's funny because outside of Indianapolis is a suburb called Zionsville. And if that's funny, because Zionsville is where Jared was arrested. That's where he lived and probably did some of his deeds, you know? And I just think that's crazy because here in Chicago, you can go to the suburbs and you can see the Home Alone house, you know? And in Indianapolis, you can go to the suburbs and see the Never Leave Alone house. Oh, man. I mentioned that I'm single. My last big relationship was 3 years ago. And what happened was she broke up with me and moved out of the country. And you might say, "Michael, that's quite unusual. That must be the only time that's happened to me." And to you, I will say no. All right? It's now the second time someone broke up with me and separated us by at least one ocean. And my first instinct doing comedy was to write jokes about it. And I was like, you know what? Everybody who goes through a breakup that does comedy writes jokes about it. I'm not going to do that. So I thought instead I'd write jokes about giraffes. And I'm going to tell those giraffe jokes here. You guys ready for those? Here we go. Here's the first giraffe joke that I wrote in lieu of a breakup joke. Here it is. Lincoln Lodge. Did you know a giraffe's tongue can be over 1.5 feet long? Yeah. That's why every time I kiss a giraffe, I go, whoa, too much tongue. Okay, some of you liked it, most of you didn't. I got 2 more for you. Another giraffe joke I wrote in lieu of a breakup joke. So here's the other one. Lincoln Lodge. What did the giraffe do when his giraffe girlfriend broke up with him? Well, he left work early to lay in bed and cry all day. While napping and watching hours of YouTube as the rain fell gently outside his window. Do you guys not know what a giraffe is? What the fuck is going on right now? I got one more. Get on board or get the fuck out. So here we go.
What else did a giraffe do?
I know one thing, he kept his fucking mouth shut. Any hoozle. Here's the last giraffe joke that I wrote in lieu of a breakup joke. So here it is, the last one. Lincoln Lodge. What did the giraffe pinpoint as the breaking point in his relationship? Well, at first he thought it could be his freakishly long neck. But then on further introspection, he realized he was an emotionally closed-off giraffe whose intentions were well-meaning, but in the end left his giraffe girlfriend feeling empty and unwanted in the relationship. These fucking giraffes. What a weird animal, huh? Look, I'll let you guys peek behind the curtain a little bit. 2 of those 3 jokes were actually about me. I don't know if you guys. This is the animal portion of the album. I have a dog friend. I have a dog friend named Snickerdoodle. Yeah, and Snickerdoodle and I like to get lunch a couple times a week. And we talk about life. And sometimes Snickerdoodle and I get in really heated political debates. Like the other day I was out to lunch with Snickerdoodle and he looked at me and he said, abortion is murder. Yeah. All right, Snickerdoodle. I think it's a little more complicated than that. And once again he looked at me and said, abortion is murder. All right, Snickerdoodle. What about, in the case of a rape, would you want her to have to go through the trauma of raising that child? Or what if the woman's not healthy enough to have the baby? And shouldn't it just be her choice? And once again, he looked at me steadfast and said, abortion is murder. And at this point, I got pissed. And I looked at him and I said, God damn it, Snickerdoodle. How the hell can you take such a definitive stance on such a complex issue? And he looked at me with his puppy dog eyes and he said, well, that's easy, Michael, because the way I see things is black and white. It was a little tense in here for a moment. It's not an abortion joke. It's just about dogs being colorblind, everybody. Here's another animal joke. I grew up in the 90s, I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. And one big thing in the 90s that I saw was that they'd have they'd have live action movies starring animals doing human things. You know, there's like Air Bud and Homeward Bound. And my favorite was a movie called Milo and Otis. How about you seen Milo and Otis? You seen that? For those of you that don't know about Milo, it was a Japanese movie that was adapted to American cinema, and it stars a kitten named Otis and a pug named Milo. And they get lost off their Japanese farm. They go on this wild adventure. They're heroes, and they become great friends through it all. And through the power of cinema, you believe it's happening. You know? But in reality, that movie was widely condemned by nearly every animal rights group there is. Because in one scene, the pug, Milo, fights a bear and wins. Yeah, and through the power of cinema, you're like, wow, I just witnessed a real David and Goliath, you know? But in reality, a Japanese man released a pug in front of a bear. And the director yelled, "Action!" And in another scene, the kitten Otis falls off a cliff and lands on his feet, as cats are known to do. You know? And through the power of cinema, you're like, wow, what a acrobat. You know? But in reality, nearly 22 kittens were killed during the making of the movie. Which means 22 times a Japanese man threw a cat off a cliff. And the director yelled, "Cut!" And finally, the kitten Milo, once again, in one scene, he limps his way towards his destination, saves his friend. And, you know, you're led to believe through the power of cinema that he's done this amazing thing despite being injured. But in reality, a Japanese man broke a kitten's foot. So it would appear more unsteady on its feet. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call movie magic. People get upset when I tell that joke. This is why I did it here. It's like, I didn't invent animal cruelty. You know, I didn't invent animal cruelty. The Japanese did. So there you go. My sister is a teacher still. I mentioned I was a teacher. She's an 8th grade social studies teacher, and I asked her when Joe Biden was inaugurated if they watched it in class. And she said no, because it was broadcast live, and they were worried about what might happen. Which I think is crazy, because when I was in high school, our teachers had us turn on the television so we could watch 2 planes fly into the World Trade Center. And I don't know if you guys know this, but a generation before, there was a waning interest in the space program. So they decided they'd send a teacher to space. She'd teach a lesson from space, boost interest in NASA, boost interest in science, and once again, the future and the stars would be ours. You know? So they gathered all the kids around nationwide in their classrooms to watch this launch. And sure enough, as soon as she hit the atmosphere, she exploded. You know? What I'm trying to tell you guys is that for generations, kids have bonded over televised tragedy. And here's the thing, not a lot of people laugh at that joke. And I get it, that one is challenging. So, I have no kids. I don't really want kids, but if I did have like a daughter, I'd be really protective of her. Like, if I had a daughter and a guy came to take her out for dinner, when he walked in, what I'd be doing is shining a shotgun. Yeah. And I'd say, hey, buddy, you lay a finger on her, I'll lay a finger on this trigger. You know? And he'd run out the door, and she'd come down and start crying. And she'd say, fuck you, Dad. I hate you. This is why Mom left you, and no one will ever love you again. I'd say, hey, you can be mad at me all you want, but at least no one had sex with you tonight. And she'd run upstairs and slam the door, and I'd go to bed, and then in the morning I'd be making some breakfast. She'd walk down and go, hey, what's up, Buttercup? And she'd go, Dad, I truly hate you. I'm going to live with Mom. I never want to talk to you again. I hope you die alone. But, yeah, you can be mad all you want, but at least no one had sex with you last night. And then the phone would ring, and I'd pick it up, and I'd go, hello? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with those names. You say John and Jan Smith? Oh, the parents of Tom Smith, the young boy who took my daughter to dinner last night. Yeah, what's up? Well, yeah, I guess I did technically threaten to murder your son. But you gotta understand, I just didn't want him to have sex with my daughter. No, please. Please do not call the police. Look, I can't, my life is falling apart. I cannot go to jail. Please do not do this. I can't recover. Please, I'll do whatever you want. Put Tom on the phone. I'll do whatever he wants. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Tom, it's me, Mr. Meyers. Yeah, you got to call your parents off. I'll do whatever you want. I think that's going a little far, Tom. All right, fine, Tom. I will watch you have sex with my daughter. Now, hold your horses, Tom. That's going way too far. All right? No, I don't want to go to jail. Fine. When it's happening, I will look you in the eyes and say, ooh, daddy like. All right, Tom, I'll see you soon. Oh, Buttercup. I think that's less of a joke and more of a vignette. Boy, I'll say this. If you take one thing from this set tonight, you gotta be yourself. If you take one thing from this whole thing, you gotta be yourself. And I knew that from a very, like, clap it up if you think you're authentically yourself. Some people clapped. A lot of people live in a fucking lie. So, yeah. That's good. But you got to be yourself. You got to be yourself. And I found that out from a really young age because I grew up playing hockey. And hockey is a really sweaty, smelly sport, So after games, you shower together, communally, in one big shower. And up until I was 10, we'd shower with bathing suits on to hide ourselves from one another, or perhaps any leering eyes in the locker room. Talking about pedophiles, But then when I was 10, I joined a team with 11-year-olds. And they were the captains of the team, and they decided it was time for us to lose the bathing suits. Because some of them had gone through puberty and developed massive 11-year-old penises. I'm talking huge. 11-year-old penises. To this day, some of the biggest, most beautiful penises were on those nude 11-year-old boys. Giant, flopping 11-year-old penises, swinging side to side. Not a care. Okay, some of you aren't laughing, and maybe that's because you're not visualizing this well enough. So picture, if you will, a locker room shower filled to the brim with nude 11-year-old boys, all of them huge, giant, water cascading off their young, taut bodies. Soap and water running through their newly formed abs, only to whisk off the tip of the penis and wash down the drain. Together, giant. Okay, some of you start laughing. I don't know. Put a familiar face on these boys. Maybe a nephew, or your friend's son. Or I don't know, just some kid down the street you think's gonna be hot someday, you know? And picture that kid, huge, 11-year-old penis. And this is bad for me because I was a 10-year-old with a small penis, and I was ashamed, and I thought I'd be made fun of. So the first day I had to go into the shower, I figured I'd perform a little optical illusion on the fellas. So I went in a stall and I just kind of fluffed myself up. And by that I mean I stretched myself. I went like this. I stretched myself out like that. And when I thought I had a great looking 10-year-old penis to match those, you guys remember those 11-year-old penises? Beautiful 11-year-old penises. I proudly opened the stall door and I walked into the shower and all my friends said, hey Meyers, you have a boner right now. And it was in that moment I learned you have to be yourself. You know, you gotta be yourself. And if you're counting, that's the third pedophilia joke of the night. Because in comedy, there's a little thing called the rule of three. So, man. My mom is, I love my mom. My mom's one of my favorite people, maybe my favorite person. I love my mom a lot. But when I was younger, my mom had a bunch of back problems. And she had all these surgeries, and none of the surgeries worked, and she lived a really poor quality of life. But then, when I was 16, she had a surgery that worked. And now she lives a full life, and it's great. The only issue with the surgery she had was that it caused her to sleep on a couch for 6 months. And the problem with that was the couch she had to sleep on was located 10 feet from my family's computer. Now, I don't know if you guys are historians of me, but around the age of 16, I found that I liked pleasuring myself to online pornography. So I was met with a choice. Do I forget all of that sex on the internet? You know? New sex every day, new strangers every day. Do I forget all of that and go off of memory? Or do I masturbate 10 feet from my sleeping mother? And I gotta tell you, gang, I thought long and hard on it. And I chose the latter. So for 6 months, I would masturbate within spitting distance of my sleeping mother. And I don't know if you guys have ever masturbated in a communal area before, but your senses become heightened to things, you know? Like doors opening, or floorboards creaking, and you're like, ah. But this was so bizarre because I had to get in tune to my mother's movements on the couch. So what I do is I just wear a really long shirt. So if anything happens, I'd be like, And before I go, there were 3 times that I almost got caught. All right, 3 times. And I'm going to tell you about those. The first time that I almost got caught, I was doing what I was doing, and my mom went, huh? And I went, ah! And that was the first time. And then the second time I was got caught, my mom went, who? And I went, ah! And that was the second time. And then the third time, I actually got caught. You see, gang, I was so in tune to my mother's movements that I didn't hear a door open. And my dad walked in. And he walks in and he goes, Jesus Christ! Michael, what in the Sam hell are you doing? I don't know. He goes, well, it looks like you're masturbating next to your sleeping mother. And I go, I guess that's what I'm doing, Dad. And he looked at me and he shook his head and went, like father, like son.